Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L here with the spoiler walkthrough for chapter 325. Woo! Alright, cool. Manga Helpers is linked down below and you can check out all the different resources through the Manga Helper forums. This chapter of Hero Academia continues more of the chat. It's a continuation of just another character comes in to fill in the gaps that I guess Ochako left. Another character comes in to largely reiterate the same points and to in some ways deliver them a little bit more clearly so that you don't need to play the inference game. The character that did it was pretty cool. And then the other thing that you'll notice about chapter is that this chapter is pretty much the end of an arc, because what it does, or it's like, I won't be careful saying end of the arc, it's the end of a storyline or it's the end of a segment, because it does things to show future plot points. Now, if you were here last night on the live stream and you were watching this, you were watching the spoilers with me, the final spoilers right now are a lot more detailed, and there's actually quite a few things that last night's summary glossed over, which fixes a few of the key points that we had last night. We'll still have to kind of exercise critical thinking here, but overall, this will be a different experience than the spoiler summary from last night if you were here for the live stream. Anyway, chapter 325, connected by one for all. We'll have to see ultimately what that wording is. The chapter opens with a panel of Kota's sneakers. Mineta also tries to run towards Izuku, but Ida stops him, saying that this is not their turn. So, with that, you can kind of see the repetition here. Last week, Kota was already next to Izuku, so the author he plays it back. So, that's just to get a different perspective, because he needs to get Ida's perspective in there. Kota calls Izuku Midoriya Ni-chan, and that was just like a really affectionate way of referring to Izuku, not a big deal. Apologizes for being paralyzed with fear. He also says that he felt inspired when he saw the giant woman talking about how Izuku protected her. He says that everything will be alright so he can stop crying. Looking at a more direct translation of that segment, yeah, Kota did apologize to Izuku repeatedly. And he did say that, yeah, actually, overhearing this girl, somehow he overheard her. Because he seemed to be far away from her, but somehow he overheard her. What the author did there was pretty much say that, oh, guys, look, if Izuku didn't help this girl out, Kota doesn't go out there. So this just continues the idea that everything comes back to Izuku in some way. It's incredible that that girl got so much attention to be the one that instigates Kota. And it's funny that he doesn't... It's funny that Kota doesn't mention Ochako at the end of the day. If there is one thing that I find really funny out of all of this, is how Ochako just kind of needs so much extra support to make this work. And it's funny just because of how the other characters just kind of, I don't know, man, like it's a really interesting way of handling her. I did see a comment saying, like, well, you know, in a way, this kind of puts Ochako on the same pedestal as Ida, which, I don't know, I still think she had a really powerful moment. I mean, again, I like Ida's moment more, but Ochako on paper. Anyway, the giant woman cries, saying that many shelters rejected her because of her quirk, so good old mutant discrimination, and it was specifically because of her mutant quirk. It's not because of some power she has, it's because of the mutant shape. She says that she was very lucky to find Izuku and thanks him, calling him Mr. Crybaby Hero. The two of them gave Izuku a hug. Oh, she also mentioned that UA is the only place that accepted her, because of course UA is amazing like that. So the two of them give Izuku a hug. The old man from the first chapter starts defending Izuku, saying that other civilians are too hysterical, and obviously Izuku doesn't want to stay there just resting forever. He keeps fighting because there was a lack of heroes. Now he needs to take a break. The old man, again, he says a lot more. Like, he has some really good lines here. I love how he says, before you scream hysterics, don't you think you should listen to what they're saying? He points out that he's probably not going to be staying at UA. They only need to rest, which I really enjoy because I want to see squad-based tactics. I want to see second user get what he wants, that being Izuku moving around in the team. That would be really good. That'd be really cool. That old man even refers to Nezu being like, this is what you told us was going to happen, right, Nezu? So that's pretty interesting, because it's now, he's just regurgitating what Nezu has set up, showing at least some people are reasonable here. Now, in here, let me see if the summary has it, because this goes on to a really interesting angle. Okay, so the summary doesn't have the next little bit here, but In the chapter, there's a moment where a civilian man asks, why can't Izuku go to UA? And then a woman answers, well, because the same thing would happen at Shiketsu. So this is pretty important, because this is like one of those things where, look, someone has to start being the hero. And mind you, to point it out, this is the big thing that reminds you, this isn't solved. No problem has been solved here. This is just one very small portion of the population that has been emotionally guilt-tripped, and some of them have opened their eyes to understand that they're all in it together. The old man then goes into this metaphor. He goes on to say that they are the spectators. The civilians have gotten used to seeing All Might fight and have forgotten that the hero had a heart. He says that after the war, many heroes gave up, so that those left must have an unwavering determination. The unwavering determination, Ochako's already narrated this to us, that the heroes were put through a sift. So yeah, he's just telling us again what we know. He ends his speech by asking how long are we planning to stay as mere spectators. And if you've been watching the videos, you know the point of everything here is for the civilians in Hero Academia to have more personal responsibility. Like, this guy touches on it. Like, these guys, and it also touches on like previous points we talked about, where the civilians see themselves as isolated from the heroes and the villains. Audience watching the stage that is occupied by the heroes and the villains, not understanding that they're on the stage themselves, right? When it comes to the activities of heroes and villains. So it all makes sense. He comes in with a really good metaphor, and you have like a really wonderful moment of nuance where it's like, yeah, someone has to start helping. And that's what you get from the civilian woman when they're having that Shiketsu moment. The Shiketsu moment is actually really strong, because again, it's one of those moments that shows you, yeah, this hasn't gotten any better. The civilian who opposed Izuku in the last chapter says that some people are calling him All for One's henchman, others the hero's greatest weapon, and he was confused by all of it. He asked Izuku if after resting in UA he will be able to turn things back to normal. Izuku replies that they will all fight for it. Do you think there's extra little details here? Or you better believe it. So first off, the old man segment before that goes on for a lot longer than that summary implies it did. But with regards to the civilian that's talking about Izuku and the rumors around him, his panels were actually pretty cool. So it's a civilian that was talking to Ochako last week and has the All Might t-shirt. He went and he spoke about rumors being spread about a guy looking like a dirty rag who manipulates multiple quirks. And he's holding his phone, so he's been staying on the internet. That's how he knows about it. It's actually it's some pretty cool scenes. They're not big, they're not fancy, but they're pretty raw. And like I really did enjoy them. And we get a really good shot of Izuku when he says that they're gonna take everything back because he has everyone with him. Ultimately, good stuff when it came down to it. After that, Ectoplasm goes to meet Endeavor, Hawks, and Shoto, who are outside UA. We saw this last chapter. He asks if they heard Uravati's speech and tells them to come in because they don't want to miss what's happening right now. We go on. Endeavor is blaming himself, saying that he just made Izuku wander around with no progress. Hawks corrects him, saying that the progress is right in front of their eyes. He says that One for All is a power formed by the connection between people. Because of it, All Might connected with Izuku, Izuku connected to Class A, and Uradaka connected to civilians in Midoriya. You know, like, on the stream I said that this was a little bit of a force. I still think it's a little bit of a force trying to shoehorn One for All's methodology into everything. Like, even before One for All, people have been connected. It's just, it's kind of unreasonable. I get what they're trying to do. It's like, you know, they're trying to make a feel-good moment, but I do think it's a force. Now, when it comes to the other translation, when it comes to what Endeavor is saying, he says something along the lines that all they did was just make Izuku miserable, which is, yeah, well, what made Izuku miserable wasn't their actions during the Nagant period. What made Izuku miserable was them not regulating him. They're the adults. He's a child. Everyone agrees Izuku's a child. Adults should have done a better job. Now, mind you, the reason Hawks can say stuff about Endeavor, it's because Endeavor's going full nihilism, saying nothing progressed, but there was little bits of progress. Mind you, Hawks doesn't say it out loud to Endeavor from what I'm seeing here. He's thinking it in his head. I will dissect Hawks' words later, but Hawks, he's just, like, the author is forcing an idea. That's why this is a little bit heavy-handed. Anyway, the summary says that we get a beautiful double spread of the civilians handing out umbrellas to all the students. Hawks is saying that if from now on each person starts thinking about the whole, a society where heroes have all the time in the world will suddenly arise. But on that panel itself, it's Izuku being handed umbrella, like, by the guy that criticized him the most. We have Kirishima being handed an umbrella. Shoji was being handed an umbrella. Everyone's being handed an umbrella. So if you've been following the videos, you know what this is about. In the video, in the videos we talk like, hey, look, the civilians do not need to be in danger. The civilians only need to do like small acts of kindness every day. That's it. As simple as helping a kid get to the police station, if that's what it is, that's what required. In this case, it's as simple as giving children umbrellas. That's all it is. That's all we need in the world. As for what Hawk said, he said, like, if they are able to take everyone into consideration, then there must be a future where heroes have all the time in the world. The key here is that the civilians don't take the heroes into consideration. So that's pretty much the next step of Hero Academia society. They need to take the heroes into consideration, which we can all agree with because we've seen it. Moving on, Shoto reminds Endeavor that they need to stop Toya together, and Endeavor agrees. So this is where we start transitioning into, like, setup for the future, and this is where things get interesting, because now that we're done with this little portion is where we talk to everyone else. Nezu is on the phone with Aizawa. So last time when we saw Aizawa on the device, turns out, yes, Aizawa was listening in. So I'm really happy we were able to point that out in the last chapter video. He says that Aizawa's class was able to do what Nezu himself couldn't. This one's, I think, again, it's a little bit of propaganda, just because, like, there's been people all throughout Hero Academia trying to make things better. Aizawa asked him to tell Ida that he did a great job. So it's actually really interesting that it's Ida that did a great job. Nezu asks about his leg, and Aizawa says that he hasn't gotten used to it as much as Mirko, which pretty much says Mirko's probably already active. Or, you know, she's faring better. We see a panel of the prosthetic leg, and it looks really hardcore. Do you remember what Mr. Compress's arm looks like? The leg looks that sophisticated. Kurogiri is being kept in Central Hospital. Doctors trying to talk to him, but according to Aizawa, there's been no progress yet. Nezu says that even if it's small, there's a spark of hope. This is where the summary really does the whole thing a disservice. No, there's a few more details here. Aizawa's been talking to Kurogiri every day, and then we find out that Kurogiri was secretly transported to Central Hospital for restorative research after President Mike and Aizawa had their thing. In other words, Kurogiri was never at the prison when All for One broke out. So that's really interesting to know. In the panel we see Kurogiri, we also see another Nomu. And then there's a weird detail that a copy of the Kurogiri quirk was dealt with by Mirko. And then they go on to say that if they didn't bring back Shirakumo's will at that time, nowhere would have been safe enough to be a fortress. So this is the author, again, trying to add some significance to that whole Kurogiri scene. I don't think that getting Kurogiri to say hospital was critical, because they had very limited places to start searching for someone. There's so many hospitals in Japan. The hospital keyword was given away by the fact that someone swapped out his body, most likely either in the ambulance or at the morgue. So, you know what? The author wants to make it important. Whatever. I don't think it stands the test of time here. But whatever. What I'm really surprised about is that there was a copy of the Kurogiri quirk dealt with by Mirko, and I'm looking at the picture here, and I can't tell who exactly that is that the author flashed back to. So I'm gonna wait for the final chapter on Sunday. But yeah, point is, what the author wants to say is that, look, every little effort was worthwhile, and now Kurogiri, they're not going to be screwed over by Kurogiri teleporting in. Anyway, Aizawa says that the search for Toga continues, that they have discovered her maximum transformation time. Oh, also, Aizawa has his eye patch. We've seen this in the color page when we did the popularity poll, though, so keep that in mind. As a countermeasure, they make all the refugees go through a period of isolation before they actually enter UA to ensure that she will not infiltrate. Aizawa says that UA is their fortress, and now is the time for revenge. So, on this one, the one that says that they were able to discern the time limit was Nezu. And it's different when you have Nezu saying it, because if Nezu says, it's like, okay, I can actually maybe believe that Nezu can probably incorporate any last-minute upgrades that Toga might get, because he incorporated all the upgrades from Shigaraki before he knew about them. So, you know, if we're saying that Nezu is that smart, he must have thought, like, okay, you know, let's be careful and add some leeway, right? I would assume that kind of intelligence from Nezu. So, fingers crossed that Nezu is being smart on both Shigaraki and Toga. The last panel of the chapter shows All Might standing near the UA barrier with a worried face. So that last panel is pretty much just All Might walking away from UA, and we get the teaser that the rain continues to fall, and we also have Aizawa saying that UA is a fortress. It's our revenge from here on out, which is a cool thought. and hopefully we get to see Aizawa back in action at some point later on. Hopefully Monoma will be around to assist him as well. Anyway, there we go. That was Hero Academia chapter 325, the spoilers and the corrected spoilers. Overall, I think it's an interesting chapter. I like that we're now moving into like another phase. So we're done pretty much with the let's all be nice to Izuku section. Now we're moving on to the okay, well, what is All Might gonna do now section, right? So fingers crossed that this all goes well. And yeah, we'll have some good topics to talk about on Sunday, because the fact that the author feels that he needs to have so many different people getting involved on Ochako's rhetoric, and the fact that he feels he needs to have the adult come in there and pretty much reorient what Ochako was saying, like, that is an interesting narrative move, and it indicates some worries. So we'll talk about that on Sunday, because it's an interesting topic. But overall, that's chapter 325. I'm happy for the extra information, and it was cool. Like, I think I do enjoy the old man's speech about being nice to heroes a little more than I do Ochako's. But I don't know if that's bias on my part. Anyway, everyone, let me know what you thought down below, and till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day. Stay safe, and yeah, till next time.